Okay, what we see on the parameter box as soon as you power the inverter up, we see information of the inverter. So the top line shows us SK300E, 0.55 kilowatt three-phase inverter with a standard I/O card fitted. The bottom line shows us that the inverter is online to the parameter box, inverter number 1, parameter set number 1, and the inverter is ready to run. Any fault codes which were apparent would be shown on the screen. You'd see the fault code and also a text description of the fault. So what we're going to do is we're going to parameterize the inverter, then we're going to test it for motor rotation, and then we're also going to save parameters and restore parameters. So to set the parameters to start with, we need to press the right hand arrow, which takes us into parameterization. Any menu, you hit the enter button to get in there. This menu shows us all the parameterization menus. So we've got basic parameters, motor data, control clamps, extra function information. And this parameter groups just go round and round and round, so you can't get lost in there. First thing we need to do is set a supervisor code. When you first power up the inverter, it'll only allow you access to a certain number of parameters. So we need to set a parameter which will allow us access to every parameter. So that's in operating displays. Scroll across to supervisor code, and we just set that to a value of 1. And now that'll give us access to all the parameters. To get out of any parameter group, we either scroll around till we see the word backwards, or we can press both left and right arrow buttons, which takes us back up a level. The next parameter group is basic parameters. This parameter group is where we'll check out and set our acceleration and deceleration times. The default settings in the inverter is 2 seconds for acceleration rate and 2 seconds for deceleration rate. We can also check what our minimum frequency and our maximum frequencies are. The default settings for minimum frequency is 0 Hz, maximum frequency is 50 Hz. For the common ear applications, we tend to set the minimum frequency to 15 Hz. So what we've done is we've used the up and down arrows. Up arrow increases the value, down arrow decreases the value. As soon as we get to the value we want, we hit the enter button to store it. We go back a menu. We want to double check that the motor data set is correct. So we go into the motor data, parameter 200, and we'll just scroll up until we see the motor data, the motor power rating that we have. In our case it's 0.55 kilowatts at 400 volts. Hit the enter button, it saved the parameters, it settled the motor data, and it's gone back to no data change, which is normal. Go back up to the main parameter menu, and we want to change some parameters in the control clamps menu, and the control clamps changes the functions of the digital inputs and digital outputs of the inverter. First things you want to do is you want to move up to the digital input parameters from parameter 420. We want to check that the first digital input is set for the PTC resistor, the motor temperature sensor, which it is as standard. The next parameter, as default, is set for enable right, and digital input 3 is enable left. For our application where we want to be able to start the motor at a fixed speed, we need to change digital input 2 to a value of fixed frequency 1. Again, we use the up and down arrows to change the value and the enter button to confirm. We need to also set digital input 3 to no function and hit the enter button. Next thing we need to do is to go up to a parameter called fixed frequency 1. And this is where we actually enter our running speed. So for testing purposes we'll set it to somewhere around 25 Hz. 27 will do. Hit the enter button and that's stored. What we also want to check is the functionality of the relay output on parameter 434. The customer wants it so that if there's a fault, he'll get an indication of fault back to his control.